Welcome back, survivor. If you're hearing my voice right now, it means you made it through another day in this broken world. After the collapse, most people ran for the mountains, others disappeared into the forests. Everyone was searching for safety. But I chose a different place to survive. A place built to hold the most dangerous criminals on Earth. An abandoned maximum security prison. Steel gates, endless concrete corridors, hundreds of empty cells, and the terrifying feeling that I might not be the only one hiding inside. In this story, I will share how I survived the first 365 days of the apocalypse locked inside a prison. Food was scarce, power was unreliable, and every dark hallway felt like something was watching me. So stay quiet and listen carefully, because this is the story of how I survived 365 days inside an abandoned prison during the apocalypse. Day 1. The prison appeared through the fog just before sunset. Massive concrete walls surrounded the entire complex, topped with rusted razor wire that stretched for hundreds of meters. Watchtowers stood silent above the walls, their broken windows staring down like empty eyes. A place built to keep people in. Now it might be the only place left that could keep the apocalypse out. The road leading to the main gate was filled with abandoned cars and scattered debris. Whoever tried to escape when everything collapsed didn't get very far. I stepped out of my car and looked up at the enormous steel gate. It was slightly open. That alone made my stomach tighten. Prisons don't open themselves. The wind pushed the gate slowly, making it groan loudly against the concrete. The sound echoed through the empty yard. I grabbed my flashlight and a metal crowbar from the trunk. If I was going to survive here, I needed to be careful. A prison like this could hide anything: looters, desperate survivors, or something worse. Inside the gate, the courtyard was massive. Guard towers stood at each corner, and long gray buildings surrounded the yard like silent giants. The prison blocks, hundreds of cells inside them. Too many places to hide. Too many places for something to hide from me. I moved slowly across the yard, scanning the windows of the prison buildings. Most were broken. The wind whistled through them like distant voices. Then I reached the main entrance. The doors were heavy steel, but surprisingly, unlocked. I pushed them open. The inside smelled like dust, rust, and old concrete. Emergency lights flickered weakly in the corridor, somehow still powered by an old backup system. Cells lined the hallway on both sides. Bars, locks, hundreds of dark empty rooms. Each one just big enough for a bed and a toilet. The silence inside the prison felt wrong. Like the building itself was holding its breath. I walked deeper into the cell block, shining my flashlight into the empty cells. Most were abandoned, mattresses torn apart, metal beds overturned. But then I noticed something that made my heart start racing. One of the cells at the end of the corridor was closed, not broken, not forced open, locked from the outside, and inside that cell, something moved. Day 1 completed. Day 30. 30 days inside the prison. At first, I thought surviving here would be simple. The walls were high, the gates were strong, and the buildings were designed to keep people locked away. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized something about this place. Prisons don't just hold prisoners. They hold secrets. I had spent the first few weeks exploring the prison block by block. There were 4 main cell blocks, a cafeteria, an old medical wing, and a control room overlooking the entire yard. The control room became my base. From there I could see almost the entire prison yard through thick reinforced windows. If anything came through the gates, I would see it. Food was still a problem, but the prison storage rooms had enough canned supplies to keep me alive for a while. Water tanks on the roof still worked, and I even managed to get a small backup generator running. For a moment, it almost felt safe. Until the noises started. At night, when the wind died down and the prison became completely silent, I began hearing something strange. Metal clanking. Footsteps echoing through the corridors. At first I thought it was just the building settling, old pipes moving in the walls. But one night, I saw something. From the control room window, I watched the courtyard with my flashlight. The yard was empty, but one of the cell block doors slowly moved. Just a few centimeters. Then it stopped. No wind, no sound, just that door, slightly open. The next morning I went to check it. The door led into cell block C, one of the sections I had already searched days earlier. Every cell had been empty. Every corridor silent. But now when I stepped inside, something was different. The smell, rotten, like something had been trapped here for a long time. I moved down the hallway carefully, shining my flashlight into each cell. Empty, empty, empty. Then I reached the last row of cells. One of the cell doors was wide open. The metal bars were bent outward, like something had forced its way out from the inside. I felt the air in my lungs go cold. Whatever had been locked in that cell was no longer there. Day 30 completed. Day 120. 4 months inside the prison. By now, I knew every corridor, every cell block, and every dark corner of the complex. The place that once felt enormous had slowly become familiar, almost predictable. But one thing never changed. The feeling that I wasn't alone. The bent cell door in Block C still bothered me. I had searched that entire wing again and again, checking every cell, every hallway, even the ventilation shafts. Nothing. No signs of anyone. No signs of anything. Yet every night, the same sounds returned. Metal clanging somewhere deep in the prison. Slow footsteps echoing through empty corridors. Sometimes I would rush toward the noise with my flashlight and crowbar ready, but every time I arrived, the hallway would be completely empty. The prison was playing tricks on my mind. At least, that's what I told myself. Until the power went out. It happened late at night. The generator suddenly stopped with a loud sputter, and the lights across the entire prison died instantly. Total darkness. The kind of darkness you only experience deep underground. I grabbed my flashlight and ran toward the generator room in the basement. The silence in the prison felt heavier than usual, like the building itself was waiting. When I reached the generator, I realized the problem immediately. The fuel line had been cut. Not broken. Cut. My heart started pounding. I hadn't touched the generator in 2 days. Which meant only one thing. Someone else had. I slowly turned around and shined my flashlight into the dark basement corridor behind me. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, at the very end of the hallway, I saw something disappear around the corner. A shadow. Fast. Too fast to be sure if it was even human. I stood there for several seconds, listening. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Running. Somewhere deeper inside the prison. Day 120 completed. Day 180. 6 months inside the prison. By now, survival had become routine. Every morning I checked the outer walls from the control tower. Every afternoon I searched new sections of the prison for supplies. And every night, I listened. The footsteps in the corridors never stopped. Sometimes they were slow, like someone wandering through the cell blocks. Other times they were fast, running. I had tried to follow them before, but whoever, or whatever, was making those sounds always disappeared before I could reach them. But tonight was different. While checking the yard from the tower, my flashlight caught something near the main gate. Movement. I froze. At first I thought it was just the wind pushing debris across the concrete. Then the figure stepped into the light. A person. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. For 6 months I hadn't seen another living human being. The stranger stood just outside the gate, looking up at the prison walls. He looked exhausted, dirty, thin, a survivor. I rushed down the stairs and made my way toward the gate, my mind racing. Should I trust him, or was this exactly how people got killed in the New World? When I reached the inner courtyard, I called out, "Hey, are you alone?" For a moment the man didn't respond. Then slowly, he lifted his head. But something about the way he moved made my stomach drop. His head tilted strangely. His arms hung stiff at his sides. And when he stepped closer to the gate, I saw his face. Gray skin, empty eyes, and a mouth full of blood. He slammed into the gate violently. Not a survivor, an infected. But he wasn't alone. From the darkness behind him, more shapes started emerging from the fog outside the prison walls. Day 180 completed. Day 240. 8 months inside the prison. The infected outside the gate that night were only the beginning. Within minutes, more shapes appeared in the fog. Dozens of them slowly gathered outside the outer fence, drawn by the noise of the first one slamming against the steel gate. Their bodies moved in unnatural jerks. Some dragged broken legs across the ground. Others slammed their heads against the bars over and over again like they didn't feel pain anymore. The prison walls held, but the noise echoed across the entire complex. And that's when I realized something terrifying. The sounds weren't only coming from outside anymore. They were coming from inside the prison too. At first it was faint. A distant metal door slamming somewhere deep in the cell blocks. Then another. Then the unmistakable sound of something running through the corridors. Fast. Too fast. The infected outside were loud, but the thing inside the prison moved silently between the walls, like it knew the layout better than I did. I grabbed my flashlight and ran toward cell block C again. The same place where I first saw the bent cell bars months ago. The hallway was dark without the main power running, but my flashlight beam cut through the shadows as I moved deeper inside. The smell hit me before I reached the end of the corridor. Rotten, wet, like something had been living there for a long time. Then I saw it. Fresh claw marks on the concrete wall. Long scratches that hadn't been there before. Something had been moving through this corridor recently. And it was big. My light followed the marks until they reached a heavy metal door at the end of the hallway. The door to the lower security wing. A part of the prison I had never opened. Maximum isolation cells. The kind used for the most violent prisoners. The door was now slightly open. Just wide enough for something to squeeze through. As I slowly pushed it open, the flashlight beam revealed a long staircase leading down into darkness. Then from below, I heard breathing. Slow. Deep. Not human. Day 240 completed. Day 320. 10 months inside the prison. By now, the prison no longer felt like a shelter. It felt like a trap. The infected outside the walls had slowly gathered into a wandering horde. Every few days more of them appeared from the surrounding city, drawn by the occasional noise echoing from inside the prison yard. But the real danger was no longer outside. It was below me. After hearing the breathing from the lower security wing weeks ago, I sealed the heavy metal door with chains and welded parts from the workshop across the frame. Whatever was down there, I didn't want it reaching the upper levels. For a while, the plan worked. The sound stopped. No footsteps. No breathing. Just silence. Until 3 nights ago, I was sleeping in the control room when a deep metallic crash echoed through the prison. At first I thought the infected outside had somehow broken through the main gate. But then the second crash came. From inside the prison. From below. I grabbed my flashlight and ran down the stairwells toward the lower wing corridor. Every step felt heavier the closer I got. When I reached the door I had sealed months earlier, my stomach dropped. The chains were hanging loose. The welded metal bars had been ripped from the wall. Something had forced its way out. And the scratch marks continued down the hallway. Up the stairs. Toward the upper cell blocks. For the first time since arriving here, I realized something terrifying. Whatever had been locked in those maximum isolation cells had been trapped down there long before the apocalypse started. And now it was free. That night I saw it for the first time. From the control tower window. The prison yard lights flickered on for a moment when the backup generator kicked in. And under the pale light, something moved across the yard. Not walking, not crawling, running. Fast. Too fast to be human. It crossed the entire courtyard in seconds before disappearing into cell block B. The infected outside began slamming themselves against the outer fence again, reacting to the movement. The prison was no longer a safe place. It had become hunting ground. And I had nowhere left to run. Day 320 completed. Day 365. 1 full year inside the prison. 365 days of silence, darkness, and survival. When I first arrived here, I believed the walls would protect me from the apocalypse. I was wrong. The walls didn't keep danger out. They kept something much worse locked inside with me. After the night I saw the creature cross the courtyard, the prison changed completely. The infected outside continued gathering near the gates, but inside the walls, something far more intelligent had begun hunting through the cell blocks. Doors slammed during the night. Metal echoed through the corridors. And sometimes, when the prison went completely silent, I could hear it breathing somewhere nearby. Watching. Waiting. I stopped sleeping in the control tower after that. Instead, I moved between different parts of the prison every night, never staying in one place too long. The generator only ran for a few hours at a time to avoid attracting attention. Food was nearly gone. Fuel was running out. And sooner or later, the thing inside the prison would find me. That moment came on day 365. The night was completely silent when I heard footsteps in the hallway outside the storage room where I was hiding. Slow, heavy, not like the infected outside. This was something else. The door handle slowly began to move. For the first time in a year, I realized I couldn't stay inside the prison any longer. I grabbed my bag, my flashlight, and the last supplies I had left. Then I made a decision. If the prison was no longer safe, I would leave. I moved through the corridors as quietly as possible, heading toward the outer gate while the creature searched the upper levels. The infected outside were still gathered near the fence, but the early morning fog was thick enough to hide my movement. When I finally reached the gate, I pushed it open just enough to slip through. Cold air rushed into my lungs. For the first time in a year, I was outside the prison walls again. Behind me, deep inside the concrete corridors, a distant roar echoed through the complex. The thing inside the prison had realized I was gone. But it was too late. I stepped into the fog and disappeared into the empty world beyond the prison. 1 year survived, but the apocalypse was far from over. And somewhere out there, another shelter was waiting. If you're hearing this message, survivor, it means you made it this far. And if you want to hear the next story of survival, make sure you subscribe and stay alive out there. Because the next 365 days might be even worse.